What is happening, everybody? MG here. MGCovers bringing you a brand new sports handicapping video. Title of this video is my reaction to the Billy Walters podcast. We're going to get into who he is if you don't know. Before we do that, as always, if you're watching this video for the first time, greatly appreciate you subscribing to the channel. If you want to follow me on social media, it's MGCovers, covers spelled with a Z. Give it a ton of content on Instagram as well as Twitter, so you get a lot of value simply by following me. Also, this past week, we launched our stat model coaching program. Super excited. We have 3 clients already signed up. So we have 2 slots left. If you want to be a part of that program, I'm going to max it out at 5 at one time. There's a link in the description box. Just put your email in. You'll get more information. You're basically working with me one-on-one daily, learning how to build sports betting models. Without any further ado, let's dive into the podcast. Before we do that, brief bio of who Billy Walters is. He's probably the most well-known sharp, made millions of dollars wagering on sports. Unfortunately, he did spend some time in prison. That was due to insider trading. You can Google and research that, but he is very smart. You'll see a lot of parallels between the things that I teach that he does as well. Not that he's following me. It's probably more reverse. And concepts that were passed down from other sharps. So let's dive into it.
It's the stock market not being a fair game or the fraudulent stocks. Companies are only required to report 4 times a year. Sports teams are required to report who's injured. You have a whole lot more information. What's a fairer game, the stock market or sports betting?
Frankly, I think sports betting is. I said so in 60 Minutes, and I believe that today. I think it would be impossible to completely regulate everything that's going on in the stock markets. I think there's too many people, too many companies, and I think it's next to impossible probably to regulate it 100%. I think sports is much more regulated.
And the idea of as someone who standardized kind of information and used information, the information is more readily available in sports.
No question about it.
How did you manage?
Okay, definitely agree with him here. And for the simple reason, with regards to sports betting, you have so much information. I think the advantage, or people would argue in favor of the stock market, it's something that you can put your money in and more than likely over time turn a profit, not necessarily a daily profit. Again, I've never day traded, so I can't make that comparison. But I think one of the advantages as far as investing in sports is you just have so much more information, especially now. I mean, you have starting pitchers, you have the starting lineups for baseball confirmed every day. So you have line movement that you can see for tons of different books. You have where the public money is going. So just more information in general, in my opinion. I think it's a little bit easier to beat, especially on a daily basis.
Well, there's different ways of handicapping, and there's obviously different people are able to create certain advantages, some smaller than others. And you could, if I wanted to, or during that period of time, I could have bet on probably 6-7 games a week and had a 20+% advantage on each game I bet on. Or I could bet on 35 games a week and had anywhere from a 2 to 20% advantage and spread my risk. But not only spread my risk, I would have been able to have disguised the larger bets from the smaller bets, which was important. When it came to Las Vegas in the early 80s, the challenge that everyone had, and most people still have today, they create an advantage, whether it be in one sport or multiple sports, but usually it's one sport. And there's guys that when they put the lineup on Sunday night or Monday morning, they can make a living making a bet, but the limits are very small. You can only win a small amount of money. From my perspective, I wasn't interested in winning a small amount of money. I was only interested in winning a large amount of money. Well, in order to do that, you have to wait till the line's settled in. The bookmakers feel like it's solid, and it is solid. And the line, everyone's got the line up. By that time, they've increased their limits. Well, by that time, the guys that were betting early in the week, they're done because there's no more advantage for them. So what I've been able to do with the help of a lot of people who've worked with me over the years, I've been able to identify those situations to where maybe we've got a smaller percentage advantage than those guys that bet on Sunday night or Monday. But instead of betting $10,000 or $20,000 on the game, I'm betting maybe $1 million or $1.5 million or $2 million on the game. So it's real simple to me. Would you rather sell a gallon of gas for $10, or would you rather sell 10,000 gallons of gas, for $1?
Okay, a lot to take from this little segment. First off, he talks about he never played games early. Now, one of the myths in this business is you have to play early before the line moves or when the line comes out to get the best value. You can play that way, and not saying that's the correct way to play, but obviously that's not how he played. That's not how I play. I generally will play what we call a seasoned line. He didn't use that term, but that's what I use. That's what it is. Meaning like it's not the first line the book's laid. There's been some money come into that game and the line is adjusted. And he also makes mention if you do that, you're probably not going to have a big of an edge as you would if you did play early. So there's pros and cons, but he'll talk about this later. Like for me, any game that I play, even though the line, let me give you an example. Let's say a line is -3 in NFL football, right? That's the opening line, what he referenced. And the books will sometimes limit that. Let's say that line moves to -5. And you say to yourself, well, you can't play it because it was at -3 and you're losing 2 points of value. What if my model has that game at -9? I still have 4 points of value, right? So even though the line moved, obviously it would have been better to play 3 than play 5. But if my line says it's -9, I still have value. And you said, why would you wait late to play the game if my line was -9? Because there's injuries, especially in NFL. I want to use line movement to advantage. I want to see what the public is doing. So I can take all that into account if I wait late. And generally you won't have as many plays because you can see in that example, sometimes the value will get sucked out, meaning like using that same example, let's say that my line was -9, the line opened at -5, right? But then it ended up closing at close to game time -7. I only have 2 points of value on that game. So obviously I couldn't play. But the point I want to make is if anybody says the only way to make money in this business is you have to play early when the line's released, that's just not true. And Billy Walters is proof of that.
And when I closed up shop in 2016 to prepare for the trial of the Southern District of New York, I had an office in Panama City, Panama. We had 1,600 accounts worldwide, and then I probably had 100 accounts here in Las Vegas. So we had say 1,700 accounts, and as I noted in the book, I kind of shared how we did what we did. But
what about the idea of trusting someone with 200, 300, 400?
Okay, 1,700 accounts. That is crazy. He had 1,700 ways to get money down. Obviously, I don't have 1,700, and I don't think you need 1,700 accounts, but you do need as many ways to get money down as possible. A lot of people say it's getting more difficult, but there are different ways that you can do it. I don't think I'll ever really share my entire story, but I will say this. If you think you can have an account with DraftKings and make a living just wagering through DraftKings, it's not going to happen. I got a ton of stories about being limited. A lot of books limited me to say $5 a wager. And then of course, I got a lot of books. If I call out the names, you would recognize them. I can't wager that at all. I've basically been banned from that sports book. And that happens to everybody at some level once you become a quote sharp or whatever term you want to use. But there are ways around that. And you do have to be, it's unfortunate that it's that way. I do believe there'll be some legislature that will come in the future to where me personally, I won't have to be as creative in order to get money down, but you need as many resources as possible. One creative way, obviously, is bet openly or any kind of peer-to-peer platform, which is perfectly legal in a majority of states. And you're guaranteed to get money down if that wager is available and pretty much guaranteed to get your money back out of it.
Getting ready for football. and basketball. We ran simulations. We did all kinds of things to go back and look at the prior results and trying to figure out ways that we could improve and we could get better. And that was a never-ending process. And anyone who's handicapping at the level that we're handicapping at, because again, one thing for sure in life, in sports and business, there's change. There's always going to be constant changes. You can't stay out of that change. You're going to be like the dinosaur. You're gone. And over the years, we've literally seen hundreds come and go.
Okay, some really good insights here. And he talks about change in sports betting. You're always have to be aware of the marketplace. And let me give you some specific examples. If you remember, was that 2 years ago? Overs were cashing like crazy in NHL. So I made some tweaks I actually brought my old totals model back, and boom, we just simply stopped playing unders. And when the model had a play for the over, we played it. Very similar to what we're doing in Major League Baseball. The overs model cashing like crazy, not playing the unders. Look what happened in NFL last year. Unders were cashing like crazy. The defenses adjusted. The defenses played two-man under, made it difficult for offenses to score in NFL. If you would have played all the unders in all the NFL games last year, you would have probably been up, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 units, something like that. So you need to constantly be aware of what's happening in the marketplace in that particular sport. For example, maybe offenses adjust. Now maybe the trend this year is going to be for overs, or maybe what happened in NHL, it's going to come back to even. Who knows? So you always have to constantly be aware and always constantly back test and be aware of what's happening. And if there's something that you see that you can take advantage of, you need to do it.
Plus 8 points to the opponent. Plus 8?
I think so.
That's a wild number.
Well, I think that was an 8 factor, which is, again, 8 points are an 8 factor. I mean, the book is what the book is, so it could be 8 points.
Yeah, so I had that. And then the other one that I saw was a great team that's coming off a bye and then plays on the road. Why is it the road there versus home?
I can't tell you that. We've been doing these things since 1974, and I think probably the most relevant statistics in the last 10 years. But again, the number crunchers come up with that stuff, but they've been with me for 30 years, so they're pretty good.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, apologize. Looked like the audio wasn't synced up with the video. He makes some great points there as well. A lot of times when you're building a model, what ends up working is not what you thought would work. And he makes a point of that when the guy asked him one of his power rankings or something that he discovered doing back testing, why it works. And he was like, I don't know, but it just does. It's like my model for basketball. We use no offensive stats. And then simplicity of all the other models. I can't tell you the number of times I've made adjustments and thought to myself, I need to try this, but it's probably not going to work. And that ends up working. Same deal. And when you actually make a wager, the general public will say, hey, this is the way to play. But in reality, you should play the opposite of what the public does. And that's very similar to building models. And again, the key point is to always trust what the numbers say, because that's what's legit. And do not be afraid to experiment and try something that you're thinking is, hey, this is not going to work, because you're bringing bias into your mind. Go ahead and run a back test for, say, 20 games. Like, you might say, hey, I'm seeing this. There's no way this can work. You need to test that, because a lot of times that's what ends up being a very successful model. Okay, guys, that's a wrap. It's a really fascinating podcast. I left a ton out. Don't want to bog this video down too much. I'll put a link in the description if you want to watch the full video. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to be a client, you can get access to all my power rankings for baseball. We'll have college football here, I think, in another week, and release NFL power rankings after 2 weeks of play. Get access for $49.95. You want access to everything I just mentioned, in addition to all my plays, $100 a month. Also, a link to join in the description box. Good luck with your wagers this week. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.